Hello and welcome to Talking Loud. I'm the host, CynicTheCritic, and joining us we have our usual members. We have MuppetSpot.
Hello, I am MuppetSpot, and I'm glad to be here after 3 seasons.
We have Yoshi Player.
Hello, we are here finally at the end of the road. Man, it's been a long journey, but I'm back for it again. Hello.
Yeah, and we have TheCartoonOG.
Hey everybody, Cowabunga.
And today, we're talking about the 4 last episodes of Season 3 that just came out. We thought Cooked was the last episode of Season 3. Technically it is, but we have 4 more episodes that weren't released yet, but now they're just being released.
My god, I hate airing the episodes out of order.
Yeah,
It's
me too.
Nickelodeon. It's Nickelodeon. What do you expect?
They've
They
been
do
doing
all
this
the
for
time.
years. It's nothing new, really. I just don't know why they do it. I mean, other
Yeah.
Annoying.
studios,
Well, it's
I don't know.
Nickelodeon. They're full of hacks.
they are strange. Whatever. I don't care about them
And-
anymore.
Anyways, so today we have 4 episodes. We have The Right Stuff, Racing Hearts, Stage Plight, and Antiqued Off. Wait, no, I'm sorry, not Antiqued Off. A Fair to Remember. That's what it's called, right?
Hey,
No, it's Antiqued Off.
We'll get to that in just a moment. I mean, sorry, much later. Yeah, because
Good joke there.
we got to do
Yeah.
it in order. Some people actually call it antiqued off, which I'm like, that. How does that make any sense?
They had to call it that because they had to make it very clear that the episode is about antiques.
Yep.
Antique shows are really. Have you ever been to an antique store? They're kind of pricey.
Never been to one.
Okay, we're getting off topic. We need to do this in order.
Right. Okay. So, anyways, we're gonna first start off with The Right Stuff. When Lucy quits the writing club at school due to the by-the-book way Huggins runs the club, Mom takes over, aka Rita. Yeah. So I mean, we haven't really gotten a lot of Rita episodes, and I mean, I can't really say I'm complaining about that all that much.
we've only had one this season, Rita Her Rights, and that's it.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you mean the other episodes that she's kind of had were just episodes where she shared with Lynn Senior, like Pipe Dreams or
Yeah.
the episode from
Pipe
last
Dreams.
Future Tense. So we have this episode, and this is where she's being paired up with Lucy, and it's about writing. And right off the bat, I do have to say that I do like that we're getting an episode that's getting back into one of the traits about Rita is her whole passion for writing. And because when we first met her in season 1, she was a dentist, or no, dental assistant. Sorry, and she wants to be a writer and publish a book. And I do like that for this episode, we're at least going back into that trait about her character, because I feel like that's sort of been a thing for her character that really hasn't been explored all that much. And I like that it's sort of like the basis for an episode. They found a way to make it work.
I'm just glad none of the other siblings appeared in the episode.
Yeah, like this was an episode where Lincoln didn't even appear. Not really going to complain all that much, unlike everybody else.
Lincoln doesn't have to be in every episode. It's not the Lincoln Loud show with his sisters.
That's kind
Exactly.
of been a funny theory I've been seeing, not just from this week, but for months now, where people have been speculating whether or not Lincoln is going to be written out of the show.
Nah, he won't.
Seriously,
That just wouldn't make any sense.
just because he's the main character doesn't mean he has to be in every single episode.
Right.
It's not called the Lincoln Show. It's called the Loud House, which means it's
About
about
the
the
family.
family. Exactly. And yeah, he gets the most attention, and he is the main character after all. But it's not all about him. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
But anyways, with this episode, I actually really dug it. This is one of the better episodes I've seen this season.
I agree. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was still a really nice episode.
You know, when I first read the plot for this episode, call me stupid, but I initially thought, reading the plot, that Rita was essentially replacing Lucy as a student. I'm not even
Okay, that wouldn't
joking.
make
Silly.
Like I
silly.
said,
Say what?
I don't know why. The plot I kind of got the wrong idea. But oh well.
Okay.
Maybe I'm...
That's a really odd thought, but
Yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, this
At first
episode, I really liked it too.
I was a little harsh on this episode at first, beginning of the week, but seeing what came later, I decided to give it another rewatch, and it's good. Nothing amazing or anything, but it's good.
But I think this is an example of an episode. But I think this is an example of an episode where, even despite the fact that it is predictable and the story isn't anything that crazy, it's still very well executed. For one, I think this is by far the best Rita has ever been written in this series. I really liked her character here. And I liked the sort of, and I sort of like the dual personality sort of difference when it came to writing between her and Principal Huggins, who I think does a pretty solid job as sort of like the antagonist here. Where for Rita, she's sort of more like she wants to write because she wants to write stories and whatnot, and just wants to like create something out of it. For Principal Huggins, he's passionate about writing too, but it's more about like how to properly structure a sentence or where you put a comma or all that kind of stuff.
Grammar is important, though.
Right, like he loves writing when it comes to the grammar side. For Rita, she loves writing when it comes to the creative side. And I like that, and I do like that for this episode. It does show that for the message of this episode, it's where there should be a nice balance of that.
I didn't
realize, and it's something that I feel like, and if anything, what this reminds me most of, what I think an episode that could have benefited from this a lot better was it's a season 1 episode that I really don't like. It's involving Lori. It was one of the earlier episodes. It was paired up with Driving Miss Hazy.
No Guts, No Glory.
No Guts, No Glory. Yes, that was also another episode that was attempting to pull off this message about how you need to have a balance of being fun but also being responsible, which that episode just completely failed at doing that. This episode pulls it off a lot better. Not to mention it wasn't as annoying as that episode was.
Well, that's because we only had like what 3 main characters in this episode.
Right, we have Lucy here, which she doesn't get a lot to do, but I do think her role does suit the episode pretty well. Haikyuu does return. She was fine, so.
Yeah, and you know what I was glad they didn't do?
What?
Much the entire like writing club is just all people that are like Lucy, and I'm really glad there was no annoying goth stereotypes in this episode.
Yes, they didn't do that for a running joke. I'm glad they didn't.
If they did that, this would have been Phantom Pains all over again.
Oh man, that episode. Anyways, and to my surprise, there's actually some solid jokes here. Probably my favorite one. It's towards the end. It's when they're at that college coffee house. Principal Huggins arrives, and then Rita has to try and think of like a distraction. Then this tall person comes out, and in your head, you're kind of thinking, "Wait, is that just Rita in a disguise?" And then, like after like the person gets Principal Huggins to drive 50 blocks away, then Rita comes out, and it's like, "Oh, she got someone to be a distraction." All right, that kind of threw me off. That was a nice joke.
Yeah, like
someone would because you kind of think like, "Oh, that's just her in disguise." It's like, no, it's not.
That threw me off.
Yeah,
that was the best joke
in
the episode.
Because wasn't he wrapped in like something and you didn't even see his?
He was wrapped in something. Had like a mustache. It was like just how the voice came off. It almost made me think that was actually Rita. Funny enough, I'm looking at the cast right now, and they're both voiced by the same voice actor. And again, it just threw me off, and I thought that was actually a pretty clever joke. I didn't see that coming.
I honestly don't think I've seen a cartoon that's done that joke before, so well done, Loud House.
Yeah, and again, the whole conflict here, not the most original. Like it's like after like Rita takes over, then Principal Huggins is pretty much trying to like make sure like you gotta follow the after like, and then after one day for class, and then a week later, Principal Huggins finds out, and it's like I'm gonna watch over the class. You have to make sure that you teach these kids by the book. And then it kind of turns into it's a nice little conflict that goes on here, and I do like that this is an episode that was kind of focused a little bit more on the adults. Not something you really see often with the show.
Like, it's a nice change of pace. I mean, we always get episodes about the kids and their wacky shenanigans.
I mean, there have been some episodes where the adults have played, and I mean, I was trying to remember, but earlier when you were mentioning episodes where Rita's paired with Lynn, you forgot to mention Sweet and Sour from season 2.
Yeah, I guess that also kind of counts.
But that was more of the siblings having fun.
Yeah. And also, I might as well bring this up just in case somebody, because I know some people are going to ask us this, but the woman that was at the coffee shop, some people speculate as to whether or not that's Sam's mom.
I don't think so.
I don't really think so either.
When I first saw the episode, I thought that woman has a very similar hairstyle to Sam. I'm like, is that her mother? But it's just
that's too much of a stretch.
Who knows? Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. But
Well,
I don't really care, to be
I
honest.
do know people have done like speculations. I mean, I remember in Ellis for Love, a lot of people were speculating that Paige was Becky's younger sister because they're both redheads and have a similar hairstyle.
And then and then you also had the speculation about really loud music, and that during that song with Lori and Lenny, it was speculated that Lori was singing about her love for Bobby, even though there was really no evidence to back it up besides a shooting star.
I just assume that whenever a background character looks like another character, the model sheets got mixed up in the animation studio. That happens all the time.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, yeah, for the most part, I did like this episode. It was pretty good. I mean, it's not one of my favorites, but I would definitely say I would come back to this if I had the chance. I thought it was pretty good.
Like I said, it was nice.
I wanted to quickly ask, does anybody still find that screaming goat thing funny?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot.
There's like one scene in the episode where there's like screaming goat, and it's the
Okay,
exact
Well,
same
thank you for
sound.
throwing in that screaming joke that's like
It's
7 to
is
8
is that
years out
still-
of date.
Do people still find that funny? Like,
No.
apparently it's still
Not really.
showing up. They even had it in Ralph Breaks the Internet, and I'm thinking, do people still find this funny? Because this was a joke
If somebody
that's
finds it,
died.
if
like,
somebody finds
6
it
years
funny, they
ago.
find. If somebody finds it funny, then it's completely. They find it funny ironically.
I mean, I don't blame anyone for finding it funny.
Yeah.
It's just
And the funny thing about
just
me is
weird
I
to
didn't really
see.
know I didn't really know it was a thing for the longest time. Well, then again, I'm somebody who doesn't pay attention to a lot of internet memes, so I usually find out about memes long after they're old.
Although that's not the cringiest internet joke to come from Loud House. We'll get to that a little later. But
yeah.
So any other thoughts you have on this episode?
Not really.
It would have been nice to see John DiMaggio play a role in this episode.
But what would he do?
Well, wasn't Mr. Grouse at the coffee house?
Yeah, Mr. Grouse and Flip.
Oh, and they're
came
also
back.
at flips. They're also at flips.
It would have been nice if he got a cameo. But
If he actually got to speak, you mean?
Mm.
yeah.
No, apart from that, I don't really have too much else to say about this one.
Yeah. So, anyways, moving on to the next episode, the one that everyone's been hyping up the most,
Drew,
and that is
Drew,
Racing Hearts.
You can't hide it. I know how excited you've been for this one.
Oh no! Like I haven't been more excited than you.
Oh nah, man. I know you're love.
Anyway, we should have mentioned
You are you're
I'll mention
more
the guest
excited
star
for
in
this.
this episode.
Hang on.
I'll do
The
that.
plot first.
When Luna and Sam embark on a challenge taking place across Royal Woods, they discover they have less in common than they thought.
And right then and there, you know exactly why everyone was so excited for this episode, because Sam's back. After what?
It's been a year and a half, and she's
half.
finally returned.
She's not
that 2
as a
years.
cameo like in Frenzy. Ugh. I mean like an actual full return as a major character who speaks. And speaking of speaking, Sam has a new voice actor, and this was something I complained about during Hero Today Gone Tomorrow. Oh, Sam wasn't recast. Well, it turns out she was. People were just late to update it.
Yeah,
yeah,
they actually got a voice actress who has done animated roles before.
Yep, yeah, they got Allison Stoner.
Yeah,
Who
which
did-
for any of you Phineas and Ferb fans out there, she was in that
Isabella.
show.
She was
Yeah, she was
Isabella. Oh, I have to get this joke out of the way. It would have been funny if Sam said what you doing to Luna.
That would have been funny.
All right, so with this episode, yeah, a lot of people have been hyping this up. So much so that people have been actively dreading this episode just because of all the hype behind it.
Well, you have to
I've-
admit,
I've seen some people saying, I'm not going to mention who because that wouldn't be right for me. Some people didn't like it just because of the shipping that's been happening with this episode.
Right, it's like it's not really my thing. Like the only parts I liked in this episode didn't involve Luna and Sam.
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to me, a ship should not automatically make an episode what it is. I mean, yeah, I may be a shipper myself. I'm not gonna be afraid to hide that fact. But ships do not make an episode. Like, I don't like the Ronikin ship, but that doesn't stop me from liking Shell Shocked or Dance Dance Resolution. Both of those episodes are good, despite me not really being much of a fan of both those episodes. Despite me not being much of a fan of the ship, I still enjoy those episodes still regardless.
Yeah, so I mean that, and the reception towards this episode, it's mostly been positive, but I've also seen a bunch of people just kind of say this isn't really that good. And for me, go ahead.
Arguments about this episode as well. Not mentioning
Yeah.
who, but if you're getting in a stupid argument about a cartoon episode,
Yeah, especially since some of
Technically-
these people end up contradicting. Like, I'll talk about this in the next episode, but continue.
Oh yeah, that's really gonna piss me
anyway,
off.
there's one problem with this episode, Ed. I know it's not surprising coming from us. It's Lynn.
Okay, we'll talk about Lynn a little bit later, because I mean I want to get my positives out of the way with this.
I just want to get the negatives out of the way first, so we can get the positives.
All right,
Yeah,
fine.
that's
I mean,
fine.
for Lynn, I mean, we seem to be the only ones that don't like her. From what I've seen, a lot of people found her hilarious in this episode.
I mean, I guess
They
she.
found that whole
They
wig
did?
reveal thing like the funniest thing in the episode, and they found it
Kidding?
shocking. Which I mean, if they found it shocking, then I'm assuming they didn't even watch the promo,
Yeah, but
because the
let's not
promo
forget some-
literally spoiled
some-
the ending.
Yeah, let's not forget some people haven't watched the promo, so that could probably explain why it caught them off guard.
I knew it was
Then-
Lynn from the get-go. It would have.
I knew it was from the get-go too.
Yeah, the episode
It's her
kind of
same voice
hinted at it
actor.
at the beginning. It's like, why
Right, so-
would you
so at the
suddenly
beginning,
have
like,
this
go ahead.
scene? Why would you suddenly have this scene where Lynn can't go, like that,
And then
and then
she's in the bathroom.
like, why do you think she's in the bathroom again? I just didn't find it shocking. Again, Lynn didn't bother me that much, especially compared to other episodes. And I do see where some people are coming from, but it's just, I just can't find her funny. I just can't. It's impossible for me.
Not to mention
Yeah, I
the
mean-
whole thing was pointless.
I mean, Lynn's whole, like, over-the-top yelling, like, I'm the best, woo, you suck, it's never gonna be funny with me. If you find it funny, cool, but for me, it's just always just gonna be
Annoying.
not that funny.
To mention annoying.
Right, and I mean, and like, even if I didn't see the promo, just watching, like, the first couple of minutes, I can already tell that Lynn's gonna, like, find a way to be in the episode. Because, like, when she's, like, paired up with Scoots, and you see that lady next to her, like, just looking at, just, like, hearing her voice, I'm like, it's so obvious that's Lynn.
Maybe
And
if
not to
they.
mention- yeah, and not to mention the flashback is something that just further shows of how annoying she can be, because it's clear that she was. It's clear that she was.
But there
you
are
know,
people that find that funny, so, I mean, if you find it funny, cool, but... Okay, yeah, so, I mean, I finally want to say this, but, yeah, I loved this episode. This is one of my favorite episodes of the season. And it's, and I want to sound biased just because I'm a fan of Luna and Sam, but just as an episode as a whole, there's a lot that I really liked here.
I actually do have two problems with this episode. I don't think you guys brought this up. My first problem's kind of a big problem, but I don't know if I should get to that. We should probably explain the plot first. But there's a scene where Lenny's on a leash. Like, Laurie and Lenny are doing the scavenger hunt, and Laurie has Lenny on a leash. I'm thinking, are the writers really thinking that Lenny is this stupid now? It's like she's been on her own before, so why do they feel the need to put her on a leash?
Oh, Yoshi, it gets worse.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I've seen
Oh, no.
some people say, oh, it's probably because of what happened in April Fool's Rules, which I guess makes sense, but
That was,
Still.
like, 3 years ago.
exactly, like, you'd think...
I don't think the crew even remembers that. They forgot
Probably.
about Maggie.
Yeah, but so I thought that whole leash thing was stupid. I mean, because like you said, I mean, we've seen her on her own before, and she even has a job that she goes to on her own.
Yeah, true.
I mean, for me, it was stupid, but I wasn't as bothered by it as you, because for me, I've seen so much worse from Lenny when it comes to writing her being stupid. I mean, has anyone forgotten about Scales of Justice?
Fuck you for that. How dare you
or
bring
how
that up?
Lenny thought she could make warm up goulash with a hairdryer.
Drew, I will
I
kill
mean,
you
can-
for mentioning that episode again.
Okay, so like this episode, I get the quote unquote joke. It's where she's on a leash because it's like she can easily get lost, and the whole point of it is to stick together so you can win the competition. I get it. I just didn't really find the joke that funny. That was probably the Well, that was one of the weaker jokes in the episode for me. I mean, other than that, I think the rest of the comedy here is actually pretty solid.
I kind of want to get to my next problem, but I think it's easier to save that after we've talked about the plot. Like what happened during the plot. So, Drew, you do the honors.
Okay, so for one, for things I do really like in this episode is... I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it's Luna and Sam. For me, I thought these two had really great chemistry. And I do like how this is an episode that is representing an LGBT couple, but they're not making too much of a big deal about it. If anything, they're treating them like as if it's normal, which that should happen. And I do like that for their problems, it's problems that really any couple would have, which is what leads me into the conflict, which for me, it's something that I think can be very relatable, not just to me, but to anybody who's starting off a new relationship. Where the first phase is the whole puppy dog love phase, which was from Elves for Love, where Luna and Sam, they pretty much met and they started to like each other because they both like music, they both like going to concerts. But now that they're actually starting to date, now they have to know more about each other beyond the whole thing of going to concerts and being musicians. Now it's like, well, I want to know more about you. And they end up learning that they're not always the same. Like, they have different interests and whatnot. Like, Luna loves dancing and going to laser tag, whereas for Sam, she likes going to farms and rock climbing. And for me, and for this episode, it's saying that, yeah, this is a conflict, and like sometimes but it's also something where it shouldn't also, it's saying that even if two people don't always have the same interests, that shouldn't be your reason for why you two aren't together. You can still find a way to make it work. And in one part where they pretty much just put their hands up and they're pretty much like, maybe we should just be friends, I did kind of feel a little bit something. I felt a little bit bad. I was like, that does kind of stink. Not just because I want to see them as a couple, but because this is something that could commonly happen with a relationship where just because you two just can't have the same interest, that means we should just give up. And I do like that for them to pretty much just stay together. It's where they do something that they both aren't really that skilled in, but they're still having fun, and that they're still going to give this relationship a shot, because they shouldn't let their not having similar interests get in the way of that, because they still love being with each other. And I really liked how that was executed.
I mean, I thought the message was really good. Just because a couple don't always have the same interest, that doesn't mean that their relationship can't work.
No,
right,
as someone who hasn't been dating, I'm forever alone. I do find this relatable. This is something that most couples go through when they are trying to start a new relationship, and how this episode handles it.
Also friendships as well.
It handles it in such a perfect slice of life way. I can't imagine. I'm honestly surprised how good it was handled, because they could have very easily just been over exaggerated,
silly, over the top and whatnot.
Well, they could have really shoved in the fact that these two are dating, but they don't do that.
Yeah, they're just throwing like a bunch of like jokes where like it's a lot of slapstick, they're falling over and whatnot, hordy.
Or it could have been a lot worse. They could have. I don't want to bring this up because I think some of you guys might get upset, but Lori and Bobby were out with stupid lovey-dovey talk and pet names.
That would have been.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that. We don't want another couple like that. Yeah, I mean, because for me, this was one of the more realistic portrayals I've seen of a teenage couple. And for a cartoon, that is the highest level of praise I can give. So I really loved how it was handled here. Like, even looking outside of the fact that it's two girls, even if it's just a boy and a girl dating, I would still be invested in the relationship because of how this whole message and how their interactions together are executed, because they actually give these two characters personalities. Like for Sam, I'm glad that for this episode we got to know a little bit more about her, just that she's just like Luna, like she's different from her. Like she's more quiet. She's sort of like more of the softie compared to Luna.
She's more quiet, she's more reserved, while Luna's more expressive in her friends.
And it was good to see more things about her. And yes, Sam's a really fun character. I really liked her.
Yeah, also shout out to the cameo that we get of Lisa and Darcy together. I don't know if anybody else saw that.
If Bossy was here, he would have gushed about that for like 5 minutes. Because I know how much he loves that episode. Yeah, it was actually... Actually, that's the one thing I liked. Like, you see several members of the family in backgrounds at many points in the episode, and it's always different. That's...
Do you see Luann in the episode?
I don't actually remember.
Honest. Let's see, because I know you see Lincoln with Clyde, of course, Laurie's with Lenny, you see Lindsay.
Rusty's with Zach. Pop's with Gran Gran.
Mr. Grouse is with Flip.
That's a nice voice actor joke.
See, and of course Lola and Lana were together, and like you said, Lisa was with Darcy. Though I can't recall if we saw Luann anywhere. Again.
Okay, one other thing I also want to point out, and I feel like I'm going to be alone in saying this, but I actually kind of liked Laurie in this episode. Now, for as much as I dogged on Laurie, and for as much as I have a lot of issues with her, I do like how she was portrayed here. For here, she was very supportive of Luna, and how she was giving advice to her. It actually seemed like she knew what she was talking about. It actually seemed like some real advice.
In fact, the scenes at the beginning with Laurie and Lenny talking to Luna, like, Lenny was good in those scenes too.
Yeah.
It seemed like this episode went through a rewrite.
They went through some rewrites, but it was handled really well.
Because it seems like weird how Lenny was good in the beginning, but then became stupid at the end.
Yeah, so Yoshi, you had your other major issue with this episode?
I thought the episode's plot was a bit too repetitive, personally. Because, like, throughout the episode, it's mostly the same thing.
Okay,
Let's go. Hey, you're the negative pants, not me. You used to not like right stuff. Don't give me that, bull. But yeah, this episode is just, it feels a little repetitive for me. Like, it's throughout it, it's mostly just, oh, we're doing this activity. We don't have anything in common. Let's go to the next one. It's like that throughout most of the first half of the episode, and I don't know, it just got a little repetitive for me personally. I didn't hate it, but
I know what you mean.
But it's Loud House. We have to remember they're notorious for being repetitive.
They are, and
you know what? Honestly, this wasn't much of a problem for me because this episode, oh my god, oh my gosh, this episode was just adorable to the top levels.
Yeah, it was super adorable. That moment where Luna and Sam hugged was one of the best moments of the whole series.
And plus, they're all
of course you say that.
Yeah,
it was so cute.
And funny enough, even though I complained in a previous podcast that the show seems to do a lot of these lather, rinse, repeat jokes, which I think has been a trend ever since season 2, I honestly didn't mind it here.
Yeah, like to go off of what Yoshi said, I'll admit it is a little bit repetitive, but it doesn't bother me as much, I would say, an episode like Hero Today Gone Tomorrow, or some other episodes. And not to mention, for me, it's really played up as more as a nitpick, as is Lynn, which, for me, Lynn was more mildly annoying. I've seen her a lot worse.
And like I said, I think the last time that I didn't really mind the lather, rinse, repeat joke thing was from Yes Man, which I think started this trend for the show.
Yeah, probably.
Does anyone even remember Yes Man anymore?
There was the concert at the end.
Nobody brings up Yes Man anymore.
I don't actually remember a whole lot of Yes Man. I'm pretty sure I know the only reason Andrew remembers most of it is because it was probably the last episode where it was probably the last episode I saw any sort of bond between Lincoln and Luna.
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
That's kind of dead now.
Dirty Luna's dead. Don't get me started on that crap.
Okay, but yeah. Oh, and but like I said, I think Yes Man kind of started the whole lather, rinse, repeat thing, which has gone on. But like I said, I didn't mind it there. I didn't mind it here. It was done well. Can I also bring up something?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think you guys will be surprised by this due to how I'm not really into the show anymore, but I honestly went to this episode completely indifferent. I actually wasn't excited for it at all originally. I don't know if you guys find that weird, but yeah, it's true. I went into this episode completely indifferent. I was just like, let's just get this over with so I can talk it, so I can be in the podcast, but...
Right, so... any other thoughts you have on this episode?
Well, not really. I mean, it's a pretty good episode. I just have
one thing to say.
What?
I hope Sam gets more to do, but unfortunately, I hope she doesn't get the Thanos treatment.
I mean, we'll see.
I have a close feeling they're gonna do more with Sam, because it's like as soon as they introduce a ship into the show, it's like they try to do more with it.
Speaking of that, let's
next episode, Stage Plight.
Oh yeah.
Hoping to get closer to her crush. Benny, Luann tries out for the school play. So we have another shipping from Ellis for Love. About a year and a half later, it's finally getting its follow-up episode here. Here with this episode.
Okay, I want to complain about one thing, and this is a spoiler already.
What?
I hated how they treated puppetry like a dorky art.
Okay, well, I want to talk about that a little bit later, but
But let the puppet guy do it.
all right.
But I'll do it. Let's just talk about the positives. I guess. I don't know.
I guess. I mean,
I don't know what you're talking about. I thought this episode was great.
Really?
seriously?
Yeah, this was one of the best episodes of the whole Psych. I'm just kidding. This was terrible.
I wouldn't say it was terrible. It was just
Yeah, like this was
awful.
one of the worst episodes of the season, and I know it's going to be controversial because I've seen people favor this over Racing Hearts, which everyone's entitled to their opinion. I get it.
That element
What you
that
say?
actually really makes me angry. I
If
don't know
Racing
I don't know
Hearts
if it
did a
feels-
teen romance done right, this is doing a teen romance all wrong.
Yoshi's gonna turn into the Hulk.
I'm about to turn into my Yoshi Player right now, but I don't know if I should save. I should probably save that for later because how some
Okay,
people
so-
have been treating this episode. I don't want to say they're wrong, but some certain things they say kind of pissed me off and legitimately upset.
They're contradictory.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
They're too
Now,
fast.
as far as
whole
positives
shit-
of this episode go, I'll admit Luann is tolerable here. I don't mind her. Like, she's probably the one thing that I don't dislike. Like, I
But
thought she had a few
everything-
amusing moments.
But everything else, including the voice acting, which we'll get to.
And there is something I do want to bring up, and this is actually something I just found out today. Some people have kind of speculated why they had Mr. Coconuts in this episode, but I'll get to him later. But some people have kind of speculated that the reason why Luann is kind of used is why he's used as a supporting character and why he's being controlled by Luann at school is to kind of show that she's very lonely and that she doesn't really have a lot of friends at school, which it's kind of an interesting idea. It would have worked in another episode. I feel like for this, it doesn't really work because there's not enough evidence to really back up that statement that Luann is lonely at school. It's kind of hard for me to buy them when you have a story about her trying to.
Oh yeah, and this episode kind of craps on Ellis for Love,
Yeah,
which I'll explain. In Ellis for Love, it revealed Luann was in the theater class, but now
Yeah.
it just seems like she's just doing this for love.
it's like now she
Yeah.
wants to do this because it's like I want to get close to Benny because the only class we have together is miming, which apparently now it's a class. Yeah, and like apparently we can't talk because well the whole joke is that they're mimes and they can't talk. Get it?
and like I said, and for me, of course, the two biggest problems with this episode are A, it's really boring, and two, it is so cringy a lot of the time.
Oh man, this is some of the cringiest humor I've seen.
I haven't
this season.
cringed at an episode this much since Cheers for Fears.
Cheers for Fears.
Yes.
Jinx.
Let me talk. Can I talk about the bad voice acting? And
Okay,
who
go
they
ahead.
Benny? All right, Benny originally was supposed to be played by Richard Horvitz, and I'm not going to mention any of his famous roles because a few of our users haven't seen them. But anyway,
And one doesn't like them.
yeah, I'm not going to mention who, but you're gonna guess. Anyway, they recast Benny with the guy from the kid from the Goldbergs, the main character, which he's a fine young actor and everything, but as a voice actor,
No.
no, he sounded like
Yeah.
a Billy West character having a stroke.
For me, like, I get why they cast him. They were intentionally trying to go for the, like, awkward, like, kid going through, like, that puberty stage where his voice is constantly cracking and whatnot. Like, I get the intention for they're doing for. I just don't want to hear it.
And speaking of cringy, annoying voice acting, let's get into another huge problem I have. I can't remember her name, but it was the drama teacher. And before
Oh
I
my
get-
god.
yeah,
Oh Jesus.
and let me get
Christ.
this out of the way. I really hate the whole eccentric drama teacher with the European accent. That is such a stupid cliche.
Not to mention, like, her whole character.
Almost every time in a cartoon, whenever they do that, whether it's a male or a female, they always have it where the drama teacher is eccentric and has some kind of European accent.
Right, and for this episode, episode, the one joke that's with her character is that she's over dramatic about everything. And she's also prone to changing things up for the play, which gets into probably one of my favorite jokes, where Luann suggests that instead of kissing, they send each other a kissing emoji.
Boy.
That's the
Seriously,
kind of
like
joke
that's an actual
Why?
joke in the episode.
That's the kind of joke that makes the writers of the Emoji Movie blush. Like,
Oh,
who
man.
thought that joke was funny? I want to ask
Probably a
that
bunch
writer.
of people did. And
Also,
again, you're
Drew,
entitled to find it funny, but
I know exactly why you said favorite joke, because there's actually worse jokes in the episode.
oh yeah, there are worse jokes here, and I think a bunch of them probably come from our supporting character, Mr. Coconuts. Why was he in this episode? Why? And again, I get the whole speculation, like he's in the episode to show that Luann is lonely and doesn't have any friends in school, which I feel like that's a bit of a stretch to speculate that. But I feel like the real reason why Mr. Coconuts was here was because they couldn't schedule any of the other main voice actors to come in to do a supporting role, so they just had Christina Puccelli just riff off of doing her usual Mr. Coconut stick.
Uh-huh.
And we're just like, let's just add him into the episode.
Thoughts going. He was
I
going to
don't
go into a
usually
rant
mind
on how
Mr.
to portray
Coconuts, but he
puppetry,
was just
I guess he can't
annoying.
do that now.
He was just
Right,
annoying in this
and
episode.
it gets even worse towards the end when it's revealed that, of course, Benny also has another puppet.
I'm sorry,
Really?
I predicted that coming a mile away. I don't know why and how I was right, but I just predicted it would happen.
It's like we had to have that so that way these two can have something in common. Otherwise, they're not going to get along.
It's
Because,
like now
you know,
it's-
Racing Hearts, because, you know, like racing, it's not like people are actually going to get the message of Racing Hearts. It's
like,
too,
how
like, grown up.
contradictory can this episode be? It's like, oh, these two have in common. They're in love immediately. And then we have another episode, oh, we don't have much in common. We can still be in a relationship. What a way for a show to contradict an episode that just came out the day before it!
And that joke at the end where where those two puppets are not being controlled and Lola gets freaked out might be one of the worst things I've seen all season. That made me cringe so fucking hard.
How are they talking when they're not even... I get this show like
That really just
weird,
shows the
but
show that has just jumped off the shark.
it
Like,
jumped
a
the shark
long
since the
time
Mad
ago.
Scientist. I'm sorry, this show has not been the same anymore. It's trying too hard to be different. And it almost never
It's trying to be a
works.
fantasy.
Yeah, like I said,
Because that's
as
how
a show,
those fucking
stupid
cartoons
joke.
are supposed to be nowadays, aren't they?
like I said, my God, I was cringing so much watching this one.
And not to mention, like, and another problem I have here, Yoshi, for as much as you said that Racing Hearts was repetitive, you can pretty much toss that to the
Sorry,
side. This is
some
repetitive.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
I
have
had
to
some physics
agree.
problems.
This
Yeah, this was even more repetitive.
This was
can
even
I make-
more repetitive. It's literally the same thing with no variety. By the time the episode ends, I was like, wait, what? It's already
It's
over?
like, wait, we're now already at the end of the episode?
like,
Barely anything has
it
happened.
was so quick because
Yeah.
nothing happens
Yeah.
in this episode.
Yeah,
Aside
like I-
from the
like I
beginning
said, I
and the
mean-
end, nothing happens.
humor is even worse in this than it was in, because at least in Racing Hearts there's a bit of variety with some of the stuff that they're doing, but the thing with Mr. Coconut, it's the drama teacher being
The
all
high
weird.
school stereotypes.
It's funny. I think the reason why that didn't bother me upon first viewing is because I wasn't paying attention to it, because the kids in the high school don't really seem to talk or do much. But yeah, when you look at them, it's like, my God, the way they're designed, they just seem like the most annoying high school stereotypes you have.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because
Stereotype, and you
yeah,
have
so
this and that.
it's funny is that I haven't really talked much about the story for what goes on here. So yeah, like Luann is signing up for the play so she can spend time with Benny, and the whole play is Romeo and Juliet, which I'll get to my frustrations with that a little later. But the first half of the
about the puppet
episode.
stuff.
Go ahead.
I'll talk about my puppet stuff now. So
Go ahead.
it's revealed later on that Benny has a puppet of their own, as his own Miss Applegate or something, which is a marionette like Pinocchio.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hate how they treat puppetry like a dorky whatchamacallit hobby that only nerds and dorks have that have no friends. But that's what
Yeah.
I played.
Yeah, I kind of already brought this up earlier, but thanks for emphasizing that.
Oh, and can I bring up another thing that this was a personal nitpick for me, but I think that Jackie's in the episode, yet she never talks.
That's just a common problem that I've seen throughout the series. I'm just completely indifferent towards it now.
Because I saw that, I was like, oh, cool, they brought back one of Lenny's friends, but she doesn't even talk.
Right, exactly.
Well, Lemmy's not in the episode.
So the first half of the episode is essentially Luann trying to spend time with Benny, and pretty much her whole thing is like she doesn't want like anybody talking with her, with him, and there's like this whole little bit where like she's like telling people to switch sides, and it's like, oh, I'll switch sides, but only if you get this person to switch with them, and all sort of stuff. And we only get like 2 real scenes of Luann and Benny talking, and they are just so paper thin. The first is pretty much just them making each other laugh, because why not go for one of the most cliched things you can come up with for a romantic story? Have the 2 main leads make each other laugh. And then there's like the part at the end where like where Benny dropped out of the play because it's like, oh, like if you don't want to kiss me, that's fine. And then like they end up making up and all that. And then the second half of the episode, that now that Luann's finally got what she wants, now that she's like gonna be like the lead with Benny, now she pretty much is trying to keep stalling the play because it's revealed she's never been kissed. Also going for a really cliche romantic plot. Only if this is for an older audience, you'd replace kiss with sex, like I never had sex. It's essentially the virgin cliche. That's what I like to call it. The virgin cliche.
Yeah, but making it kid friendly.
Right.
Now let's talk about Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, yeah. This has always been a pet peeve of mine. I've always had an issue with kids' cartoons, like having an episode with like a play or a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. And this has always bothered me because, of course, they're going to go for the G-rated version of it, where it ends where the 2 leads live happily ever after and everything's resolved. When really, that's not what happened in Romeo and Juliet whatsoever. But of course, it's for kids, so they can't go that dark.
Well, then again, they barely even talk about the play. I mean, and when we actually do see the play, it's the end when they're all taking a vow. I mean, if you want to see a good example where they actually do show the rumor side of the story, then just watch the Hey Arnold episode School Play. They actually acknowledge that it's a tragic story, and they even have the whole thing of how Juliet kills herself at the end by stabbing herself.
Right, because like or if you want to see a more humorous take on this, or if you want to see like a more humorous take on just a bunch of kids doing Romeo and Juliet, watch this episode of My Wife and Kids that did this. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Like there's literally a part where in the play there's a kid doing a stupid dance. And there's also a part where Juliet is like, oh, it's Jackie Chan. And the kid is in a ninja fit swinging across the stage. It's so funny.
Yeah, but like I think the reason I wasn't bothered by that is because they barely even talk about the play to the point where the whole play itself just feels irrelevant.
I don't know. It's just always a pet peeve of mine because I read Romeo and Juliet. I know everything about that story since I watched the movie. I have read the play in school, so
I have too. And like I said, due to the fact that it's barely even mentioned. But like I said,
the '60s version is the best film version of Romeo and Juliet. Don't watch the Leonardo DiCaprio one.
The one from Baz Luhrmann. But let's not get off topic. Yeah, like I said, the episode is just really boring and it's really cringy. That's all I can say about it.
I pretty much got everything I wanted to say off my chest this episode. The only thing I can say that I don't mind here is Luann. She's tolerable. I don't mind her here. Otherwise, yeah, this sucks.
Yep, it's not good.
It is not good, although that doesn't seem to matter because everybody loves this episode. And I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm just pointing that out.
Anyways.
Yeah, but like I said, though, but it is kind of upsetting that a lot of people
And why do you think they like the episode? Because Luann and Benny are together. It's like, wow, what a way to contradict your comments.
Unlike Sam, who I thought was fun, Benny's not interesting whatsoever.
Yeah, he really isn't. But, so that's all I have to say. Moving on to the next episode.
Our last episode
we have,
for the week.
Yeah, we have Affair to Remember. When Clyde and schoolmate Zach begin bonding over a mutual interest.
You already did that joke.
Yeah, okay. Being serious here. Antiqued off. When Clyde and schoolmate Zach begin bonding over a mutual interest in antiques, Lincoln quickly finds himself feeling like a third wheel.
Can I get something off the way? This doesn't have to do with the episode itself.
Yeah.
Loud House bombs their finales. Let's be real here.
Yeah, they're not good when it comes to their finales.
Like, even in
This
season
is the-
1, Homespun wasn't the last episode that aired.
No,
What was
it
it?
was
It was Snowboard.
the snow day episode.
Snowboard, that's what
Snowboard.
it's called. That episode
I was
so
so
boring.
bored.
I was so bored watching. Yeah, exactly. I was bored watching it.
And then in season 2, they had Snow White Out being the last episode, and that episode was also
That
boring.
was boring.
And this
Oh,
episode,
that was.
we're gonna jump right to the thoughts right away. It was boring. And a weak way to
Exact-
finish
boring.
off the season. Sorry
Honestly,
to jump to
I don't
the...
really have much in the way of any sort of like emotions or feelings towards this episode because it's another Clink in the Cloud episode. They're really. What else do I have to say about
Let's
this?
get the obvious problem out of the way, if the jokes weren't obvious. This
Oh,
episode
and then went
is...
Stella.
Really? Okay, I'll get to Stella later. But this episode's essentially a rip-off of Affair to Remember.
But it's
literally-
way less
it's-
interesting.
It's so much less interesting, and how funny do you have a Laurie episode being better than a Clink and McCloud episode?
Well, for one, if Fair to Remember actually had a conflict on.
It's like the
For
conflict
this,
felt more
there's just
relatable.
nothing
to me.
really going on here.
It's like most of it is the same. The only difference is the message at the end. But I'll get
Oh,
to
the
that.
message.
I
we'll
wanna
we'll
get-
talk about that later.
I want to
but-
get to that later. I have a personal pet peeve
Yeah,
with that.
but yeah, and like I said, and one thing that's really been upsetting me from what I've seen, I mean, I still haven't seen He's Still in My Heart though, but it really sucks that Stella's a good character, but yet she seems to appear in episodes most of the time.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's like, yeah, Stella's in this episode. I was like, yay, great to see her. But she can't save
Right?
it
She's
in
part of
any
the friend
way.
group, but she doesn't really get anything to do here.
She doesn't
I mean,
save
yeah,
the
I mean-
episode for me.
I mean, Stella was in it. John DiMaggio does voice work in this episode, and he couldn't save it either.
This is the Spies Who Love Me all over again. He could have saved that episode.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to things to this episode, I have so little here that I would actually say. I mean, Zach's here. I mean, at least I can tell him apart. I guess he's technically the weirdo of the group.
They're all kind of weirdos. Okay, let's be real.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of for him is that he's the weirdo of the group.
And yeah, and like you guys have said with Lincoln's friends, that you guys don't find it interesting. I guess even if one gets more focused than the other, there's
They're still not that interesting.
I think they just did this just to pacify people who want to see a Zach this episode.
I mean, at the very least, I can at least tell all of them apart. I mean, you have Rusty, who's technically the ladies' man, Liam,
And
who's
the
the
one
farm
with the dead
boy,
brother.
Zach, who's the weirdo, and Stella, who's the girl. It's
I miss
pretty
Girl
much
Jordan.
just the Goonies all over again.
Whatever happened to Girl Jordan?
I know Rossi
I have no
would
idea.
miss her. Rossi probably misses her.
Probably she got too freaked out by seeing Lincoln in his underpants.
Probably. But I mean, and I mean, I'm trying to like backtrack and think of other things this episode. I mean, you have one of Clyde's dads appear here.
and yeah, and
They
that was
wasted them.
because- yeah, that really sucks because for the longest time I wanted to see Clyde. I mean, I know they had like some brief cameos, but it really sucked because I wanted to have both of them to have speaking roles again, and they only bring in one of them, but not the other.
Yeah, that stinks.
I mean,
Oh.
Harold. I mean, Harold doesn't even appear in an unspoken cameo. I mean, he's referred to off screen, but he doesn't appear.
Right, and then we have like this episode where Lincoln's in the bathroom. He's calling each of his friends because now there's like this whole thing where Lincoln is going to this magic show, and like he's still in the bathroom doing all these things. And the last phone call he gets is Lynn, pretty much like, "Hey, get out of the bathroom," because it's Lynn being Lynn. I don't know what else to tell you.
And let's not get into that because
But for me, my biggest issue, and I think it's the biggest issue that everyone has to this episode, the message.
Yes. that's what
Also,
was
I have one
bringing
more
up
thing to
before.
add before we get into the message.
What?
Why is Lincoln now into magic? It seems like every episode they try to give him something new. He's an adventurer. He's now into magic.
He's a
He's-
blank slate of a character. They just want to throw whatever new interest just so it can serve the plot.
He
Because,
has
like,
more.
again-
He's. I
Because,
think
like, it's like
Rover
he's less-
from Sesame Street is more. It's a more established character, and he's on a preschool show.
But okay, the message of this episode. So what happens towards the end of the episode is that it turns out that Lincoln's friends, like he was inviting them, like one of them, like who wants to come to the magic show with me, and they ends up finding them all of them at Flippy's, and they pretty much admit that they're not into magic and that they lied that they want to come, and then it turns out that and then it turns out like they ask like why didn't you invite Clyde, and he says like he's busy with Zach. I thought he was really into magic, and then it turns out like, oh, he was just pretending to like magic. And he's like, why? Maybe because he's a good friend to you. And then Lincoln realizes like, oh man, if Clyde is pretending to like the things that I like, then why am I not doing the same for him? So he goes to Clyde's house, and then he's pretty much apologizing, and like he's claiming that he wants to get into antiquing because he was getting into his magic, and then the two end up making up. And the message of this episode is saying you shouldn't lie about why you don't want to go to something that your friend likes, but it's okay to pretend to like something just because it's your friend, and they pretend to like the things that you like, so you should do the same for them.
Yeah. Honestly, that message, I don't think it'll be harmful for kids, but it's not something you
It's
should
very
be sending out to them.
confusing.
I think the episode just did a bad job at executing this message, honestly. Like, first off, I have a personal pet peeve whenever it comes to characters lying and then just getting away with it. I get it, we're supposed to contradict something that Lincoln actually finds out later on, but, you know, and I know they did it because, oh, we didn't want to hurt your feelings, Lincoln, but, you know, lying to someone and then admitting it later, that actually can make the recipient feel even worse. Because I've been through that before.
Honesty's out the window now.
It's like, how are you supposed to trust them? Trust issues. Maybe that's what the episode should have focused on more.
Yeah, I mean, for Lincoln's mind, it's like, yeah, I don't really like antiquing, but Clyde doesn't really like magic, and he was pretending to like magic for me. I should pretend to like antiquing for him, so that way we can get along. And for me, it just sends really mixed messages.
I think the episode should have been more clear on just being honest, really. And somehow it says
granted, I
lying
think
or pretending
did this sort of message a lot worse, which is why I'm not as bothered by this as some people might be. But
I don't even know what the reception for this episode is, to be honest.
It's actually been poor.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people really say they don't like this episode at all.
Like I saw Drew's voting poll for the ratings. There's a lot of 3 to 4s. I'm like, damn, people.
Yeah,
that's
not normally. It's usually like a lot of people voting for 7 or 8, or a lot of people voting for 9 or 10. That's about on average for the episodes. But seeing people vote for 3 or 4, it's like, man, this episode's not being received well.
Anyway, let's talk about our overall thoughts on the week.
Okay, so overall this week, when it comes to picking the best and worst episodes,
it's like
it's very obvious.
Good and 2 were just bad. Oh yeah, that was my thoughts on Antique Buff. I didn't think it was very good. Actually, I think I'm the only one who thinks it's legitimately bad. But that's just me.
It's mediocre. I just don't care.
I'd probably give it a garbage house rating. A very light one, to be fair, but still didn't like it.
It's the finale of Season 3. It's disappointing.
And I didn't care for it. I didn't care for it, but I wasn't like overly upset because I mentioned this in the first time I appeared here. But I think I'm just numb to the series at this point, to the point where nothing in it really makes me all that angry or anything.
That's everyone. That's all the episodes actually.
Yeah. So, all right. So when it comes to best episode of the week, I mean, come on, it's obvious. It's Racing Hearts. That obviously for me is best of the week. Honorable mentions going to The Right Stuff, and I do mean that. I think Right Stuff is still a pretty good episode that I do recommend checking out. Worst is going to come on, it's Stage Play. With dishonorable mention going to Affair to Remember, which does really stink. I don't want to keep dogging on Lori like this.
You've done that joke 4 times now. You don't want to do an overused joke, do you?
Okay, yeah. Antique Doc gets dishonorable mention for me.
Don't be the whatchamacallit. Don't be the bad Joker. I'm the bad Joker.
Yeah. He's got to live up to 2 titles, you know.
You sounded so loud there, Yoshi.
I know. I wanted to get that across.
Okay.
I was surprised by that, actually.
Anyway, because I have many names like MuppetSpot, Rover Fan, or Mr. Negative Pants, or Bat Joker, whatever you want to call me at this point. I'm just basically gonna give it a rating.
Your ratings?
Yeah, I'm just giving it the same as you.
Oh, okay. So what are your ratings?
Best of the week, obviously, Racing Hearts. Honorable mention going to The Right Stuff. Worst, Stage Plight. With the big dishonorable mention to A Fair to Remember.
Oh my god, are you all trying to trigger me right now?
Yes.
That joke's getting so damn old.
Okay,
Or
Yoshi.
I'm so the worst when it comes to jokes! Anyway,
Okay, Yoshi.
okay, so it's pretty much the same as Drew's, honestly. It's literally the exact. I think it's the same for all of us. Or at least I assume anyway.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think it's just the same for all. CartoonOG.
That's pretty much the same. The best of the week, obviously, Racing Hearts, with an honorable mention going to The Right Stuff. The worst is obviously Stage Plight, because my god, was it cringy and boring. And with Antique Doc into this, but like I said, I didn't hate Antique Doc. But like I said, at least it didn't bore me and make me cringe like Stage Plight did, which was much worse. But
yeah, that's the whole season. Like now we've just covered every episode this season, and those are the last 4 episodes. So there we go. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to subscribe to Talking Loud if you haven't already. What were your thoughts on the episodes this week? Leave them down below in the comments. Make sure to leave a like on this video. And until next time, I'm CynicTheCritic.
I'm Yoshi Player.
I'm MuppetSpot.
Oh.
I'm MuppetSpot, and I need to figure out my title at this point.
And
Yeah.
I am the CartoonOG. I've enjoyed the time I've had with you guys on this podcast.
And we'll see you next time.